Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. Today, I am joined by one of the favorite people that I get to follow on Twitter every single day, mostly in the tabletop role-playing community, but she has a number of different fandoms that she is interested in, and we're going to explore those and talk about tabletop role-playing games. I am joined today by Francita. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing very good today. Even though full quarantine was just declared today, or the situation that I think is probably going to be resolved when this comes out, hopefully.
Crossing fingers, because we are recording near the end of March, and I know that in our county in Florida, we are starting tomorrow the whole like stay inside shelter unless you have a job where you have to go out for the job, or like going to the grocery store to get groceries, but they're like, no, you don't need to go anywhere else. Stay inside.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's necessary, definitely necessary to keep the spreading from going like nuts, basically.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I just hope that, especially here in the United States, and the people that I live near in my neighborhood, I'd love for them to learn a little bit better about staying inside and not going out and going to the beach.
Yes.
It's like, just follow the rules and we can get this done.
Yeah. So, I really am hoping that people can follow the rules because Gen Con is hanging on a thread, I think.
Yeah, I know for our, like, we had our big convention is supposed to be in April in Florida, and they have already said, okay, they rescheduled it to June, and people are like, is June too early? Is it going to happen in June? Are they going to have to just cancel it outright and like do another wait a year for it? And it's like, yeah, it's something where, because I have a number of people that I follow that are artists that go to the conventions to do Artist Alley. It's like my heart goes out to them because of it.
Yeah, they are going to lose a lot of money, and it seems like if people don't start following the rules of stay at home, then 2020 is definitely canceled, I think.
I've definitely seen those memes that's like, okay, it's only March of 2020. Can we just like be done with it? Let's go to 2021.
Yep. But well, let's just hope it gets better.
Absolutely. And we're here to talk about fandoms today. And I know that there's one that we're going to start off with that I know I haven't watched, but I've heard it's very good. I've had a number of people tell me how good it is. You told me that you've watched it at least 5 or 6 times at this point, and that is the TV series Hannibal.
Yes. Oh, I love Hannibal so much. Mainly, a little part of it is that I really, really like fiction about serial killers, but especially the series Hannibal it really captivates me because of the cinematography of it. It's the example that I really always say is that the food scenes are really like sensual. They are really like sexy. The when he's preparing food, the shots are really zoomed in and the colors are very vivid. And then the sex scenes are really strange and very just psychedelic. And it's a very weird and very interesting juxtaposition,
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like that. And it's just, the characters are very good. It's a very neat interpretation of the Hannibal fiction in modern times. if you haven't watched it, is Modern Times Hannibal. And well, basically, I just love Mads Mikkelsen being Hannibal. He's one of my celebrity crushes. So
that is somebody that that I've had on as a past guest. That was their thing too, was him being Hannibal. Like that, they watched the show just for his character and then fell in love with the series.
yeah, it's a very interesting relationship between the protagonist, which is Will Graham, sort of agent of the FBI Behavioral Sciences Unit, and Hannibal. They get into sort of an intertwined, very strange, codependent relationship that is just the focus point of all the series, in my opinion. And well, I don't want to spoil anyone if you really want to watch it, but there's just this evolution, like this character development that goes in Will Graham, and at the end it goes like with a bang. It's really, really good. Like the last episode is just I have never been more happy with an ending of a TV show.
That is some high praise right there.
Yeah. Because if you start to like think of how this character began, what was his journey and how he ended, and what were his final motivations at the end, then it's basically the journey of becoming like a psychopath. It's very good.
What is it about? Because I know you had mentioned like you're interested in serial killers. Of course, Hannibal is one of those more famous of the fictional ones. But what is it that draws you to that kind of storytelling with characters that are serial killers?
Well, I guess that takes us a little bit into Mindhunter. Mindhunter is a TV show about how the behavioral science unit in the FBI began. Basically, that unit is the one that profiles killers and criminals. So it's really, I find it really fascinating to get a little into the psychology of how these people operate. Like it's really fascinating to me how they seem to operate in a very different level than the like normal people, I guess we could call it, but the people that are not serial killers. So it's like for example, I really didn't like the movie American Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like it mainly because for this character to be a serial killer, his motivations were really mundane. Like I could relate to that. Like he killed, well, they were like really exacerbated motivations, but he killed a colleague because he had a better business card than him, you know? And that's something that you usually wouldn't kill a person for, but it's like envy, and you can understand envy. But for most serial killers, they don't operate in that level. Like they could kill someone because their shoes were red, or because they were walking funny, or because they liked football, you know? There are really strange things that you cannot easily understand. And I find TV shows or movies that get deeper into that very fascinating.
It's definitely one of the things where, you know, from the start of when I started doing this podcast and finding out how many like true crime podcasts there are, how many podcasts there are about like serial killers, and it's like I didn't think there'd be that many, but wow, is there a definite market for it? And I know that Hannibal as a show was very, and from the people that I've spoken to about it, they've definitely said it's one of those shows where, like you said, you have that evolution of the character from beginning to end, and you just can't imagine like where they started and now they're ending in such a different place.
Yes. Yes, that's very true. And I think that's what I like most about I like that about Mindhunter, how they start getting into the minds of these serial killers, and it's actually during the TV show, like during the first episodes, that they start calling them serial killers, and because the term didn't exist before that, before this is in the 70s, before that people, they were just like people who killed more than one time. There was not a term for that. And it's they well if you the people listening haven't watched that TV show, they basically do interviews to serial killers, and they try to create profiles or try to get into their motivations and try to categorize the different kinds of serial killers, why they do what they do. It's mainly they are mainly working with the basis that all serial killers have like a sexual approach to their crimes, but it's very interesting to see the different interviews. And in the second season, the one that the latest one, they actually interview Charles Manson.
Oh wow.
Yes. And they interview in the first season, the first person that they interview is Ed Kemper, which is the co-ed killer.
Mm-hmm.
It's another famous serial killer. But Charles Manson, yeah, that was really wow. It was a really funny interview, mainly because they were hesitant to interview him because he didn't actually kill anyone, you know?
Yeah, that my mind just went like, because I was thinking as you're talking about that, I was like, wait, didn't he? Then I had to think about that.
He didn't. All of the crimes that that they were like how do you say, that were pinned to him,
Mm-hmm.
were done by his followers.
You can't see me, but I'm nodding along here. I'm like, okay, like again, I'm not familiar enough with it, but it's now something that's going to be on my radar for trying to like watch and check out.
Yeah, it's very good. The show, it's very good. Sadly, it hasn't been renewed for a third season yet. But I'm hoping, still hoping. I never lose hope.
Well, that's a good thing about never losing hope. And I know that there was I think when Hannibal was on, there was concern that there might not have been a like a final season at some point, but they got it and they wrapped up the show. So yay!
Yeah, and they wrapped it up really, really, really good. Yeah.
So on top of Hannibal and serial killers, you're also into LGBT fiction.
Yes.
It's not something that I'm familiar with, so I'm pleased to have you talk about it. If there's any books that you recommend, or how you got into that fiction category, like.
Well, I think this may be like maybe familiar to a lot of people, but I got into it with fan fiction. So I started reading fan fiction of fandoms that I liked, just basically books that I liked that are TV shows. I used to read a lot of supernatural fan fiction
Mm-hmm.
um, that just paired up the characters that I liked the most. And that's how I got into it. Then I started reading some original fiction from the same authors that wrote the fan fictions that I liked. So they would create original stories about lesbian characters or gay characters, and I would read that. And well, my favorite book right now is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. She is kind of a new author, and her first book is this book. And it's just a very good book about how the first son of the United States falls in love with the Prince of Wales. It's basically like, for the people that are familiar with fan fiction terminology, it's basically an enemies to lovers kind of book,
Okay.
and it's so good. When I went to Gen Con last year, I really wanted to get this book, like the physical book. I couldn't find it anywhere. The only place that they had it was like really far away from where I was staying, and I wasn't going to take an Uber for that. That it was going to cost me a lot. But I got the PDF and I read like the ebook, and I read that. But I'm still like hoping to get the physical book, because there's something about physical books that I really like. But yeah, this book in particular is like really intense, and it's kind of political because they are going through elections in the United States during the book,
Okay.
like the campaigns, and one of the protagonists, the first son's mom, the president right now, is going for re-election. So there's like a really complicated situation there where they can't be discovered that they have a relationship, because like the media will go nuts and maybe it would cost her the re-election.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I'm a very fast reader. Like I can read. When I read like the Hunger Games when I was younger, I read all three of them in like a night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like I didn't sleep that night, but I read them. um but I really read this book like very fast. Very, very fast. I think it was in my in the trajectory between getting back from Gen Con to Santiago.
that is that's fairly quick.
Yeah. Well, I love reading, and I've been reading uh basically my whole life. I like to read because I'm an only child, and my mom just would put books in front of my face to get me entertained. Because I didn't have many friends, because I lived kind of isolated when I lived in another town. I live in the capital right now, but
Mhm.
when I was younger, I lived in a town, and our house was really isolated, so I didn't have many friends. So I would read and draw.
Oh, that's always a good thing. I know, like, I love to read, and it's one of the things, even more like recently where I want to make more time for it, but then at the same time I'm just not finding the time in my life to to sit down and start reading stuff. But I love it. I love reading, and the book sounds wonderful. I want to take a look and see if I can snag a copy or snag the ebook and take a look at it, because the story sounds really fun to read.
Yeah, it's really it's really funny in some parts. It's really tragic in others, like really heartbreaking, but it's a roller coaster of emotions. And I like that. I live for that.
And I like how you talked about how you got into that the kind of stories through fan fiction, because you are absolutely 100% correct. Because I know that I have read some fan fiction where it's like you don't expect it. You're like, I don't see those characters having that kind of relationship, but the people who write the fan fiction are so good at getting
Yes.
it to that point, and it's like, oh, I can see it now.
Yes. Yeah. That's and actually, well, there are different reasons that people get like into fan fiction or read certain types of stories. For example, I really well, I'm into musicals. Um, I am not like the biggest nerd on musicals, but I like some of them. And one that I really like is Les Mis. And for Les Mis, one of my favorite characters is there, which is the leader of the revolution, of the French Revolution there. Um, and I read like halfway through the book that Les Mis is based on, by Victor Hugo. And this character has a really complicated character with another character in the book and in the movie too.
Hmm.
Um, but they never get together because like everything, like the whole revolution is happening and there's another focus on the story really. So they never get together. But I was like, it would be really nice to see them together. So I started reading fan fiction about them. And so at the end of the, well, spoilers, if someone has not watched Les Mis or read the book or watched the musical, all the people in the revolution die at the end. So these two characters die together actually.
Hmm.
They are killed, like one of these characters approaches the other when he is going to be killed and says like, basically says, can I die with you? And so they get killed together. So it's so sad that I started reading fan fiction that is like an alternate universe fan fiction
Hmm.
where they are not there and they are not going to die and they are like the coffee shop alternate or universe or the like university students and they live happily ever after. You know, so that's basically that's basically how it goes for some of these tragic stories that end badly. People read fan fiction so it doesn't end badly,
Hmm. Yep.
you know. That happens to me a lot. Um, and I also really like to read fan fiction. Sometimes I get into fandoms that I don't usually get into just because the author also writes fan fiction from this fandom, an author that I like, and I like how they write, so I would get into that.
It's definitely, again, I mean, reading some of the fan fiction out there, it's like it blows me away that people write it, and then I'm like, well, why aren't you selling the book, like change, and I think that's how certain other books have been published,
Yeah.
is that they started as fan fiction and they changed the characters and they got
Well,
it published, and it's like there's so many people out there that are so talented. It's just go
yeah.
forth, publish.
Yeah, I've known some fan fictions that have become books, very good books. But also there's the case of uh 50 Shades of Grey, which I don't want to talk about in like extent, but that was a fan fiction.
Right. I had heard that, and yeah, I totally understand. Don't need to go further, but yeah, I'd heard that had been originally as a fan fiction.
Yeah. A Twilight fan fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I still read fan fiction. I actually, when I was younger, I was a big Harry Potter fan. I still like Harry Potter, but I think I mostly like what people have created out of Harry Potter than Harry Potter itself.
Hmm.
I keep finding like things that I hate about it, but I still like, currently I'm reading a fan fiction, a Harry Potter fan fiction that has been going on. You will not believe this, but it has been going on for like 10 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm blown away, because the last time I read a Harry Potter fan fiction, I think it was oh gosh, I think it was in between Goblet of Fire and Order of the Phoenix coming out, and somebody had written, I think it's like 30 or 40 chapters of what could have been.
Wow.
And then when the book got published, I almost felt let down. I was like, this isn't anything like I thought, because I'd read the fan fiction. It's so
Yeah.
I was so into it. I was like, but where's the stuff that I was reading? It's like, oh, okay. It's
Yeah, that, oh yeah, welcome my brother. Yeah, that happens. And yes, basically the fan fiction I'm reading, the Harry Potter one, it the canon just goes as far as the 4th book. So all the rest, what I'm reading right now, they are in 7th year already. So all the rest has been like made up by the author,
okay.
and it's very good. I really like it. I like when Harry Potter fan fiction authors make up things that J.K. Rowling didn't specify in the books. For example, there's this whole like culture for the purebloods that is just like mentioned during the books, that they are really like classist people
Hmm.
and all that stuff. But there are traditions and there are habits that go with that culture, and they never say anything about that. So for example, what is the common, yeah, I will give an example. So the author in this fanfiction made up that it's common courtesy among purebloods to test a bottle of wine that you give someone for poison, and it's not seen as weird, because there is so much like backstabbing around,
Hmm.
that they find it like common courtesy to just test it for poison. And if you don't do it, it's like kind of looked at weird, like you're being too naive, and that totally makes sense for how the purebloods are.
Right.
And yeah, I really like when authors make up things that make sense.
Right. Exactly. Like they build on to what has been established and not touched upon, but they do it in a fashion where it's like where, like you said, it makes sense.
Yes. So yeah, that's my fanfiction rabbit hole.
So on top of the LGBT fiction, there's a specific series that you had mentioned that you were into by Olivia Hill.
Yes.
That's not only a book series, but it is becoming a tabletop role playing game, and that is called iHunt.
Yes. I must admit that I haven't read all the iHunt books. I'm just on the I read the I got the official reading order from Olivia. So so I started reading from the first novel, which is Blood Flow. It's a novel about vampires, not about the main character of the iHunt series, which is Lana. And then I started reading Killing Monsters in the Gig Economy, which is the first iHunt book. And it's so good. Olivia actually did a reading from the beginning of the book a few weeks ago during a stream. And it was just like the best experience ever to have like the author reading the book for you. But basically, iHunt is being a millennial and killing monsters because you cannot afford rent and you cannot afford your student debt and you need money, and working like 60 hours a week is harder, or harder, like air quotes, harder than just killing a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, killing a vampire will give you enough money to solve all your immediate money problems. So the series of books follow Lana, the protagonist, who is a very just badass lady that has like the same problems that we have, that I just described. Like, she can't afford her rent, so she has to go kill werewolves and wizards and all sorts of strange monsters to be able to afford life, which is crazy. I'm like, I really I really want to say like, oh, capitalism, but yeah. But yeah, it's very good because it's very real, and the way that Olivia narrates the book and the fight scenes are very cinematic. Like, you can, I when I was reading it, I can see it happening like before my eyes. I can see like the movie adaptation of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And well, the RPG now is the same thing, is killing monsters, being a millennial, and just doing it to afford to live. And the absolutely amazing thing about this RPG is that well, the designers are Olivia Hill and Philomena Young, but the graphic design of the book was done entirely by Olivia, and it's gorgeous. Like, if you haven't seen the book, it's definitely not what you expect an RPG book to be like. It looks like a fashion magazine.
Okay. I know that I've been hearing about it because I follow Olivia on Twitter. So I follow along with like when she's talking about the role playing book and the other books that are coming out. And it's like, dang, excuse me, I really want to see see more and get into it, and I just haven't yet, and I don't know why I haven't. Like, I don't know. Again, carving that time out for reading has not been successful this year.
Yeah, I really want to get into an iHunt game. And Liv, if you're listening to this, I hope that we found the time to make a game happen because we said we would, but hopefully it has happened by now. But yeah, I really want to play this game, and I already like one day I was like doodling, and I already made a drawing of my character. My character is there. I just have to make it in the character sheet, which, by the way, I designed the character sheet for this game.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, I will do the character sheet for iHunt. I can't believe it. And I did, and it was awesome. It was like, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it's free to download and make your character. So we can get the link there.
Okay. Now, how did you first get into the book series? Was it something that you just stumbled across from like being on Twitter? Was it something that you got recommended?
Well, first I got into, well, this is the story. So I'm very good friends with Basilisk Online, Dyer. So he was telling me some last year. He was telling me about this San Gennaro co-op, and that they were really cool and they were doing stuff. And so I was like, oh, okay, they sound nice. Good luck with that. And one day, I think it was him that sent me a link to a part of the design of the iHunt RPG book that Olivia had posted on Twitter. And there were these icons there for different actions. I don't remember very well, but there were icons there that she had done or she had found on internet and put in the design. And so I had some reservations about the icons, because mainly when you use icons, I'm getting a little design lecture here, but when you use icons, you have to see that all the icons follow the same style. So if it's just outlines, then all of them should be outlines. If it's like solid color, then all should be solid color, and the thickness of the line should be the same, and so on. So these icons that she posted weren't like that. And so I did something that I never thought that I would do, and I messaged her and I said, you should really look at those icons. I was like really, really like intrusive there. And I said, you should really look at these icons. I really like the rest of the design that you got there, but these icons need to be looked at. And so we started talking. And at some point, I sent my portfolio to her. And she said, you should really join the San Gennaro Co-op. And I was like, oh, really? And I asked Basilisk if he was okay with it, and then I joined. And I didn't know why it was called the San Gennaro Co-op at the time. It's because it's from the San Gennaro server, which is, San Gennaro is the fictional place in California where the iHunt series is located.
Okay.
So I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know Olivia. Like, I didn't know anything. But then I started getting into it in the San Gennaro co-op. I started realizing that all these people in this server, which is massive, like the San Gennaro server is massive, all these people were there because they were a fan of Olivia. And I was like, well, this is something. I should get to see what's the deal is. And so I went into Amazon and put all the books in my cart, but the shipping alone was much more than I could afford. So it was really sad. And so I was left with just the wanting to read the books without actually having them. And it was really sad. But then we started doing things with the San Gennaro co-op, and I kind of forgot about it for a while. But then I got the books, and I have all the books. I was able to start reading them, and yeah, they are really good. I wish I was more dedicated to reading them right now, because I think I will have to start reading the one that I was reading from the beginning again, because it's been like 2 months since I read it. But yeah, the first one that I read like half the book in like a night, and I was telling Olivia all about it while I was reading. Yeah. And she was always like, "Did you get to X part?" And I was like, "No, I haven't. Oh my god." Yeah. She's a great friend, and she's a great person, and she deserves so much more than she has right now.
Yeah, I enjoy following her. I enjoy seeing what she puts out there, and gosh, I know that, like, on top of me wanting to read the books, I just hope that, people get out there and do stuff with the tabletop game and make it something, because I feel like it's got such a unique story behind it. Like, it makes me want to read the books just to read the story about, like,
Yes.
people that need that money. I need to pay my bills, and instead of working at like some garbage job hoping to scrape by, like, I'm going to go try and go kill a vampire. Like, it sounds so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's very well, monster hunting books and TV shows and movies and stuff are really cool to me. But this is like a very different take, because you don't do it to be cool. You do it because you need to, and you know that you can get killed. But then again, you are probably going to die if you can't afford food. Yeah. So basically that's what I really like about it, about the books, and about the whole universe of iHunt. And again, one of the main reasons that I like this so much is because, well, the book and the universe is very good, but also, like, Olivia is a genius, and I'm just really amazed that she can write, and she can edit, and she can do graphic design, and she can do book layout, and she can do game design. And what's something that she can't do?
I totally understand. I'm looking forward to getting into it. Now, we've been talking about the iHunt tabletop role playing game, and at the beginning, I had mentioned I had found you on Twitter through the tabletop role playing community
Yes.
that exists on there. How did you get into tabletop role playing?
Well, actually, my boyfriend got me into tabletop role playing games. He was my he was my TA in college, and we started talking, and we started like getting together. And he said one day, like, do you want to play tabletop role-playing games? Like, have you played tabletop role-playing games? And I said, no, I haven't, but I would love to try. And so he invited me to play a game that is called Elric. I haven't played that again, like ever again, but it was based on series of books called Elric of Melnibone or something like that. It's a very dark fantasy kind of game where everything is like grim dark and just a very dark game. It was really fun. I cannot remember my character at that I made for that game very well, but I remember that I had a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we got together like soon after that, and we have been playing role-playing games ever since. Like ever since we got together. Well, he has been playing games since he was like 11 or something. So yeah, and we have our regular games with our friends from Chile that are canceled right now because of the quarantine. But uh, but since then, I play like at least every month. And now that ever since I joined online games, I play at least twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in several of Geeky Bugbears games. I'm in a Descent into Avernus D&D game. I'm in a Tom of Annihilation D&D game. I'm in Exalted game, which is really fun because I have a character that basically has a Gundam. And yeah, I just love that you are able to play a game that is playing to create stories, you know? And role playing your character, I think that's the neatest thing ever.
That's what I was going to ask, is what drew you to that, and you answered it already.
Yeah, role playing is by far my favorite part. I don't like combat that much. I enjoy it, but we had a Pathfinder 2nd edition game on Wednesday, and at some point I realized that all the players, me included, had only talked in character during the whole session, and that was like amazing. Like we didn't, like maybe a couple times we said something as players,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of the time it was talking in character with the voices of our characters, and it was just amazing.
That's one of the things that I've really found interesting since playing and getting into it, like from high school and college to now, which is like over 20 years, which blows me away, is that the shift from having it be like more combat oriented to now having it be more storytelling and character building and world building, and having that collaborative effort between the players,
Yeah.
where it's not, okay, we need to have combat every single time, we need to have like something happening every single time, and just letting the players and the DM and the storyteller, whatever the title you want to give the person running the game, it's just letting that go, like letting it just evolve naturally amongst the group. And that has been so wonderful to see, not only with the games that have been published, but with like all the Twitch streaming games and the actual play podcasts. And it's been wonderful. It's like something that I never expected, but I'm so happy that I'm able to watch and listen to so many wonderful players make something that I never expected.
Right. I really like that people are playing so much. One thing that I'm not so much of a fan of is people that think that you can play anything in Dungeons and Dragons. But, well, at the same time, as long as you're playing, I guess it's okay. But there are, like, if you want to play cowboys, there's probably a game for that. You don't have to use the 5th edition rules for that. But I guess it's easier because you have to learn a new set of rules, so it's easier to just take the game that you know and just modify it to accommodate the fiction that you want to play in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
that's always been especially when I had a group in person, it was always the struggle of, okay, we play D&D every week, maybe we can play D&D 3 times a month and play a new game with a different system on like that last week. But then it's the pushback of, I don't want to learn another system, I don't want to buy another book, and I totally see where people are coming from, but there are so many great systems and games out
yeah,
there that are so much better suited to what you're looking for in a game. It's just a matter of getting them away from D&D and like taking the time to learn it.
yeah. And well, there's also the issue of who's going to GM. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like no one wants to GM. All they want to do is play. So yeah, someone always like takes the mantle of, okay, I will learn how to GM. And yeah, but I'm basically in the philosophy that if you want to play a new game, then for example, yeah, okay, this is something that happened to me a few days ago. So we were talking with one of my group of friends, my in-person games. We were talking online, and we said we should maybe play some one-shots, um, because mainly we like playing like in person our campaign, but we could play online and play some one-shots of other games. So one person said we could play Numenera. Like, yeah, Numenera is another game that I really, 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 really like, by Monte Cook Games. And so my boyfriend said, okay, so GM it. And they said, no, I don't know it very good. So what's up with that? Like, you suggested it. Why don't you want to GM it? Like, why is like someone else had to do the work of learning it and GMing it? You're suggesting it. You do it. Yeah, you know, but there are always these players that just want to play.
Right.
And you have to do, this is another one of my like really strong beliefs, you have to do your homework in D&D, on in any role-playing game. You have to do your homework because the GM is taking the time and the effort to prepare an adventure. So you should prepare too. You should prepare your character. You should know how your character behaves, what are your abilities, what do you have to roll. You should know all that, and that should not be the responsibility of the GM to know that.
Absolutely. And I know, to add on to that, with what you just said, is that, and my total personal belief is, people that play spellcasters should know what their spells do,
Of course.
so that way it's not like, okay, let me flip through the book or let me check it. Like, you should at least have a good understanding of, I'd say 75% of what you've got. Like, just like, even, do I roll? Is it instant? Do I touch? Like, just the basics. Like, you don't have to know like everything, but you should know enough to be like, okay, I know what it does. I don't need to pause the game for like a few minutes to read over my spell list.
of course, as I said, it's your character. You are the master of it. So please learn your things.
Is there a game that's out, excluding iHunt, but is there a game that's out there that you haven't played but that is on your list, like number one, you want to play this game?
There is actually. It's not like a new game, but it's Legend of the Five Rings, which is like a very Japanese style kind of samurai game.
Mm-hmm.
That I played the last edition during Gen Con last year, and I hated it because mainly because in an event game you don't get to role play that much, and this is a very role play heavy game. Like, it's you basically don't have much combat because combat is deadly. Like, if you
Mm-hmm.
get struck by a katana, you die. So yeah, that's it. So it's very social. It's social interactions and like social combat, air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that fascinating because there's a lot of lore about this game, like the different clans of samurai, and I really, really want to play it. And I was supposed to play it this year, like during our summer, which was in January, February, but life happened, and the GM never could finish reading on the game. So that's a game that I would really, really want to play because I'm committed to do my homework on that game and reading on the lore and just being prepared for whatever scenario the GM is going to put out. But you have to have players that are committed for it because you cannot play this game without knowing anything.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know what are the rules, like the social rules for the court, and what are the social rules for the tea ceremony and stuff like that.
Yeah, I totally understand, only because a friend of mine had picked up the new version and we played it, and I came in not knowing much. Like, he gave me a character and was like, okay, here's your character, and I didn't really understand what I was getting myself into when he was running the game.
Right.
It's like, okay, I see where the game is going, but I don't have enough information to like really
Yeah.
get into what's being presented. And I felt very out of place, but at the same time, like, the book is gorgeous and I really want to learn, because those kind of like as you said, like the like instead of like physical combat, it's more like a social combat or a political combat of
Yes.
maneuverings and, oh, you didn't do this correctly, or the way that the clans are interact with each other, like that kind of thing is fascinating to me. But it's definitely where you need to read and you need to figure out like your character and where they're coming from, and learning the different like ins and outs of doing that kind of style of play.
Yeah. And funny enough, speaking of the book, the Legend of the Five Rings book is very, very beautiful. I found that the character sheet wasn't as beautiful as the book, and it lacked to be like more like Japanese. It was really like neutral, and I really didn't like that. So I redesigned the character sheet actually, and that's one of my hobbies: redesigning character sheets or just designing character sheets. So if anyone is listening and has a game that is going to come out and you need a character sheet, hit me up because I love doing character sheets. It's my most favorite thing to do.
Now you mentioned, designing character sheets, and I know that you have a portfolio of work, and you offer services. What kind of services do you offer to people that if they're looking for some kind of person that they need? Like what would you be for them essentially?
Right. So basically, what I do is graphic design. Um, that means that I can do and I do graphic design mostly for the tabletop RPG community. So that means that I mostly do logos and brand identity for your games or your podcast or your Twitch channel or whatever. I do Twitch overlays, any kind of overlay that you need for your solo game or your group game. I do layout for books, documents. It goes this layout pricing is mainly for, as I said, books of at least 10 pages. I can do like a special price for less than that, but this is for 10 pages. I do character sheets, which, as I said, is my most favorite thing to do. I love doing character sheets because I love translating a game mechanic into something that's going to be the elements that the player interacts with the most. The character sheet has to have a flow to it, a flow that goes um, from the way that you make your character to the way that you use the character sheet. It all has to have some sort of synergy. Sorry. Character sheets, and then the last thing is graphics, which are two kinds: a single graphic, which can be like a flyer or a promo image, or a Patreon banner or a Twitter cover image.
Hmm.
That's basically a graphic. And I have a pack of Kickstarter or Twitch or any other social media graphics. That's basically 6 pieces of graphics for a special price. And
Awesome.
I can link my rates sheet is on my cover image on Twitter.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. I did want to point out, because I went to your Etsy as we're talking right now, and I wanted to just shout out two different things that you have for sale. One
Okay.
one is the D20 self-portrait t-shirt in the Van Gogh style, which I love, and that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I have like a series of artists mid to 20s. Um Actually, my boyfriend right now is wearing the oh the Mondrian one.
Hmm.
But I have Mondrian and Liechtenstein, and I have Van Gogh and have Picasso, and I have Warhol.
And the other thing that I wanted to shout out, which I really love in the design and everything, is your D&D 5e character sheet for dyslexia.
Oh yeah.
I think like this character sheet is something I don't even like. I have words, but they're not coming out of my mouth right. But
Oh, you're
like
too kind.
I have 3 kids, and I feel like this character sheet would be perfect for them to understand Dungeons and Dragons a lot better than what their character sheets print out as now off of like D&D Beyond.
Right. Yeah, I have in my to-do list to make the spellcasting sheet, which I will add to that same listing. So if you bought it before, you will be able to download it with the updated spell sheet. But yeah, I really want to do like the whole collection um, of sheets so they can be used all together. The spell sheet is not going to be as illustrated, but still it's going to have the same style. But yeah, that was a really interesting challenge for me, and it was actually a commission.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, someone that a client that his daughter was 9 years old and had dyslexia, and he wanted to start a campaign with her and her friends. So he requested I make a character sheet for dyslexia. That basically the requirements were that I use the Open Dyslexic font and that everything has to have an image. So he sent me a character sheet that was going around at the time, that had like icons for some things like the AC and the attacks. They had some icons there, but it wasn't really illustrated. And I thought, my first thought was, yeah, I could do icons, but then what if I really take the time to do a fully illustrated character sheet that could be much more appealing to kids, that could be much more understandable by any kind of person that approaches D&D without really understanding it or without really knowing much about it. So there's always, for new players, there's always like deception. What does deception do? Or insight. What does insight do? So this way you could like look at the illustration and you would go like, oh, okay. And the neat thing, this is our tidbit of information, like the neat thing about insight and deception is that it's the same image. If you look at it, it's the same scene, but seen from the different perspectives. So in one, the person is trying to deceive the other, and in inside, the other person is trying to figure out if they're being deceived.
That's really fascinating. I didn't even catch that when I was looking at it.
Yeah, that was a really fun challenge, and I really like how it came out. And actually, the proceedings from that character sheet go to the International Dyslexia Association.
That's awesome. Now, for people that have listened to this podcast and they want to follow you on social media or take a look at your work, what is the best places for them to do so?
I think the best place to follow me is on Twitter. It's by Francita. I am mostly active on Twitter, but you can probably find me everywhere as by Francita. And my portfolio is on Behance. It's there on my Twitter, so I would not like spell it out for you because it's kind of long, but you can find it on my Twitter. I'm always there, and if you have any questions, if you're not sure that the project you have on your mind is something that I have priced on my rates sheet, you can contact me, and yeah, I will for sure answer your questions. And yeah, that's it, I think.
Awesome. Well, I will have all the links on the show notes. Even if they're too long to spell out here, they'll be on the links to the show notes and Facebook page and website. So if you're listening and you want to take a look, just click on them and they'll take you directly to Francita's information, and give her a follow on Twitter, because you will not regret following and basically lurking or watching along with what you post, because I know there's a number of people I follow on Twitter, but there's a very few number of people where it's like I actively am watching for what you post and what you're posting about, because
Oh,
I just really enjoy it. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule and having rescheduled previously to come on and talk to me, because it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
thank you. Yes, really, thank you, because this has been so fun, and I'm really glad that we could reschedule during this trying time.
Absolutely, and definitely look for Francita playing on Twitch. And just I'm sure you post whenever you're on games, so
Yeah,
go out there and follow and hear some good stories being told.
yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.